Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at XRP, some Bitcoin, and some Sigma coin. So starting here, we've been tracking this potential bullish breakout like we had back in the day, knowing that we had these two gaps and the expectation that we would break down from here. Well, we did. So right when we got to the cusp of potentially rolling back up again, we just started kind of sideways chopping, and then kablamo, the algorithms or the market or whatever you want to call it, clicked over to the new day. And as soon as that happened, mass liquidations manifested. So this particular bullish count is off of our range right now. So the idea being that we should start seeing continuations of the closing of this body down here. So how we're going to do that is going to be dependent on a few things. So starting with some structure plays here, right? So the good news, we got 5 waves off the low, right? So this very well could be the beginning of the next impulsive leg, and we are working on a few different corrective structures to get down here. So first we have a potential for a flat. So this flat structure is going to be an ABC down, ABC up, and then it's going to end up being 5 waves to the downside. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and this will probably grind back up into this region for a 4. And then one more 5th wave that comes down probably into this 192 to 194 range. This would be the most wonderful because XRP will have finished its corrective structure and is already ready now for the next leg higher. So this would be our last kind of completion of this breakdown. So having already finished the final 5th wave for wave 3, and then we're now moving, for wave 5 of the flat. And then we're now moving into the 5-wave move to the upside, sideways, and down. And then we should find hopefully support again here around this region. 194 is really what I'd like to try to stay above with this -2 deviations. Now, that's the first scenario, right? Next scenario is, and specifically I'd like this one just because of the fact that we dropped sideways and then broke down. That's very customary for XRP's behavior. Kind of have like a sideways chop and then a breakdown. So now we could do this next in a very similar structure that we did here, where we end up doing this as the ABC off the flat. So we have the breakout and then we do an ABC down, right? So then this would be roughly where we are right here in this region, working our way back up again, and then another breakdown. So we would end up having an A and then a B back up into supply, and then a C back down to this region. And whether or not this ABC has to come in and break down into a new low is the question. But right now we're going to be bullish in these scenarios, thinking that we probably will hold the higher low again into the same region, but we just have to take a pit stop first, working our way to this kind of structure here. So flat structure here for the breakdown, an ABC potential structure for the next move, or I don't see it really much anymore, but there was a potential that X-Force was pointing out that we could have a triangle pattern for Bitcoin. So here's Bitcoin. We've completed this wave 4. We have this larger 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 waves to the downside. So how are we going to get to this 5th? Well, he was potentially recommending or identifying that we may end up doing a triangle pattern, where we end up doing a sideways chop on Bitcoin for a while before or until the breakdown manifests. So this may take another week or so, and then eventually, once we get done with the Fed meeting, we get that final kind of dip down to get us that lower low, probably down to 79 and change for the flat, maintaining the floor of the 74K. And then once this triangle is out of the way, we go here. So in this chopping, this may be a distribution out of Bitcoin and moving over to other assets. But the fact that XRP fell the same percent, the same type of behavior, right, just a straight down move as Bitcoin did, makes me think that we may also experience a lot of chop through this region here and do some type of structure before the ultimate maybe sweeping of the lows down to these levels into the 164 range, where there is a batch of liquidity sitting. So yes, that's kind of what we're monitoring now, is really just what is Bitcoin going to do, because that is the majority of the market. I did like a more fast approach for Bitcoin, because you can see how much more extended this is. If we kind of just run this on the eyeballing view of this, let's say we get down to here, you would see how this kind of has a structure associated with it, which would take us into the Fed meeting on December 10th. So definitely sideways and down into the Fed meeting feels right, and this triangle could probably be what the situation would, or the solution would be, or some type of falling wedge where we end up doing another 5-wave move downward on the wedge, and we do something like this where it's like really choppy and we get something along those lines, and so maybe it's not as triangle-y. So expect a lot of volatility, basically a break back out up to the level, can't sustain it, and then it just kind of does this breakdown, very controlled, very similar to like maybe something like this is what you can expect to see. Yeah, that guy's pretty good. So so this may be what's ultimately in the cards is a bounce, breakdown, and then it goes up to the Fed meeting, and then that keeps our symmetry for this larger 5-wave move to the downside. And XRP would be a similar type of thing. Maybe it does have its own falling wedge where it too works to the downside as a 5-wave move here. But what's beneficial about this is this looks to me like a very clear 5 waves. I mean, can't deny that. So the fact that we have a very clear 5-wave impulse makes me think we're going to be doing something more along these lines where we do a breakout thing. So basically scenario 1, we do this one, which is a kind of a little bit of a relief bounce and then a rollover. We do scenario 2 where there is no relief bounce, we just keep heading lower. And then scenario 3 is we do the more bearish case where we end up having a 5-wave move to the downside that takes us back and finishes that move. And now we can start working our way out of here. So those would be the 2 primary, or 3 primary scenarios to get this gap close and move onward. So all right, guys, hopefully that was helpful, and we will check. Oh, let's jump over to Sigma. Sorry. So Sigma got kicked in the teeth along with all the memes over here. So as you can see, we had our completion of, oh, it's loading, sorry. So we had a completion of the wick on the 1010 event, and then we kind of got some support found and a move back up to the top of the range. And now we've completed a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves to the downside. Still looking at this as a potential rising wedge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we actually have a small micro 5-wave move to the upside here. And this, oh boy, there we go. Maybe, yeah, I'm not going to make it. Okay, yep, didn't make it. But that was the idea with this being a 5-wave move off the lows with a wedge pattern that would be a rising wedge and then an ABC. So this may be getting close to wrapping up with its own flat. And that may identify that this was, in fact, the flat structure that's going to be the one that plays out for XRP, and we start performing better than Bitcoin, which has so far been pretty consistent that our dominance has been increasing compared to Bitcoin here, while Bitcoin just ranges and breaks down either in this 5-wave move or as this triangle with the final 5th for a more complex structure. So yeah, so Sigma's so far, I mean, it looks, pretty dramatic, but most of that was really just the market, right? Not really anything major. So we'll just see how this plays, but we're looking for the higher low for the Sigma coin. So that's the next step. All right. Thanks so much, guys. We'll check in tomorrow, and have a good one.